What's going on, guys? It's Philly Mike here, and today we're going to go over what I think the Phillies need to do to improve upon this team in the 2024-2025 offseason. After a season that looked somewhat promising after a great start, but ultimately fell flat on their face after the Phillies have won the division for the first time since 2011. With a tough loss to the Mets in the NLDS where they went out 3-1, I'm here to see what we can do to make this team better. With these ideas, hopefully they can get over the hump after they reached the World Series in 2022 and have failed to reach that stage ever since. Now, I have a few questions for this team. Is it pitching? Is it hitting? Is it approach? Is it coaching? What exactly is this team missing? And we're going to go over that in this video today. We're going to look at what the team is currently shaped as before free agency really kicks off. We're going to look at what I think we need to do to improve upon this team. And then we're going to take a look at some potential trade targets in the offseason. This is a critical period for this team as they need to rebuild on a roster that has some great foundations, but some question marks still. If these question marks get answered, there's no doubt to me that this team can absolutely compete with the best in the MLB, as we've seen over the last few years, especially 2022. It's now my job to figure out how we can reach that point and become World Series champions this upcoming season. We have to think about the payroll that they currently have. The payroll is important, but as we take a look at this tweet over here from MLB Deadline News coming from Bob Nightingale, this is important. This is showing that the Phillies are ready to go and ready to throw any money. And I believe this for the right player part. I believe it's about Juan Soto. But as much as I would love Juan Soto, is that really the right approach that the Phillies need to do here? Are they one player away or are they multiple players away? So I do think that this is important. They're interested to go into that third luxury threshold. And I think it's something that isn't necessary. But, I mean, if they want to go to the Juan Soto sweepstakes, they have to. It's just as simple as that. As we see, as they're currently constructed, they're second in payroll, only behind the Dodgers. Now, this is pre-free agency, so we're going to see teams like the Yankees, we're going to see teams like the Mets really make that jump up. But the Phillies aren't really in a spot where they have all this space. They're already over the threshold. And as the tweet from Nightingale said, this is going to go into the next level if they feel like that they need to, if they find the right player. So now we come over and look at free agency, right? Who are the right players? Obviously, we have our big fish in Juan Soto. This is the man that everyone's going to be checking in on. The Yankees, the Mets, even the Dodgers are going to look at Juan Soto. And I'm sure the Phillies are too. And I think the Phillies do have a chance, but ultimately I think Soto stays in New York, whether that's Yankees or Mets. So as we look through this list, and there's plenty of players on this list that the Phillies can use, what positions do we need? What do we need to make this team a better overall product that they're going to put on the field? As we come over here and we're going to look at the current team that they have fielded as if opening day was going right now, this is who they would have versus right-handed pitching. This is the team that they're going to field versus a right-handed pitching team. This is the lineup, and then this is everything else. This is our pitching. This is our bullpen. So what are the weak spots of this team? Now, Trey Turner is interesting, right? This is a guy paid a lot of money a few years ago to really be the saving grace of this team. This was the man that was supposed to put them over the top. He was the missing piece for that 2022 run. And he's had some moments and he's had some good runs, but ultimately it's what have you done for me lately? And lately in the playoffs, in that last Mets series, he was terrible. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He was bad. And is this the level we're going to get from him as he keeps getting older? As he's 31 now, will be 32 and be here for a long time. What are we getting from Trey Turner? That's a question mark. Bryce. We know what Bryce and Schwarber are, right? We know what Schwarber is. We know we're getting a lot of home runs, 38 here. We saw the average go up, which was kind of shocking that he was hitting this high, and at some point he was touching 260 in the year. But we care about on-base percentage, slug, and home runs with Schwarber. That's what we care about. Bryce had a good year. Right? He was hot at the beginning of the year, even leading the MVP race at a point, but he kind of cooled off a little bit, but still a great year. This is a guy who's going to finish in the MVP race somewhere, somehow. Okay? So this is a guy that we're confident on. But as we get into Nick and Alec and Marsh, reports came out that these three are people that could be traded. Right? These three are guys that might not be on the team come deadline time next year, or with the recent rumors that have came out, might not be on the team on opening day. Now, this is something that really is to think about. I mean, Nick is probably a guy that they're going to need for a bigger move if they want to acquire maybe a guy like Trout, because they just need to make the money match up. But Bohm is a guy that I think they need to move on from. I stuck out a long time with Alec Bohm, but I just don't think he's the guy. He had a good year, a great year even at one point. I mean, the first half of the season, dude was making a case to be top 10, top 15 in MVP discussions. But ultimately, the second half of the year was bad. And in the playoffs was just brutal. And it's been that way for the last 2-3 years, where he's just not a great playoff guy. Stott, a great defensive second baseman, can play a little bit of short if need be, but another question mark hitting-wise. We know the glove, but what are we getting hitting? 245 average for a 315 on base is not what we want or need from a guy like Bryson Stott. We need a higher average, higher on base percentage. Real Muto, he's getting older. He's going to be 34 soon, coming off a year with a knee injury, which a lot of people speculated was worse than was initially let on. What are we doing here? And Marsh and Hayes are guys that, like I mentioned earlier, Marsh is someone that can get traded. Austin Hayes, I don't see being on the team the whole year. I just think that, that was a move and that Dave Dombrowski made hoping that it worked, and it was not really a great move, truth be told. He's a guy that probably isn't going to play as much, and I would play Weston Wilson a lot more over here. I thought Weston Wilson had a great second half of the season. I thought he gave you good at-bats in the playoffs. So I think Weston Wilson's the guy that we really need to consider getting a lot of at-bats next year. And I would be okay with that at the bottom of the lineup. We're not relying on him for too much, but he gives you good at-bats. He has some pop in his bat. And I thought he did a good job last year. Now, as we look at the other guys on the bench, Stubbs needs to go. I'm leaving it at that. Johan Rojas and Sosa, two defensive players who don't give you much when it comes to offense, but, Rojas is just bad offensively. We know what you're getting with him, and their plan is to work more on hitting with him this winter, but I don't know how much hitting is going to help this guy. He's just not a great offensive player. I hope it works out because he's great defensively, but we don't know. And Sosa is who he is. Great when you don't see him that much, but a guy started to see him a lot when we had some injuries with Trey, so they knew how to pitch him. That's been the trend for his whole career. This is nothing new if you pay attention to Edmundo Sosa. And the rotation is going to be good. I think this top four is special. I think Taijuan is really going to be gone at a point if he even makes a roster out of spring training, especially when we have guys like Andrew Painter that start to look good in the Arizona Fall League. So I think the rotation is going to be fine. Maybe another depth signing just in case, because they kind of had some depth issues last year with a lot of guys getting injured, with I believe everyone on here on the injured list but Sanchez and Nola were on the injured list last year. And I think that is, it's a position of strength for this team. I think the starting pitching is great. Bullpen needs help. The only guys in here that I somewhat trust is Kerkering and Strahm. Kerkering hasn't been great in the playoffs. Strahm's been weird in the playoffs, but great in the regular season. So, what do we got? What do we have here? Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado, two lefties. Alvarado, you don't know what you're getting out of the bullpen. The ball can be going into the other batter's box behind JT. He's just a headache. He's a guy that you can't really trust when the game gets tight. So, what do we have in him? We have him for a little bit longer due to his contract, but are we happy with that? He has to stay unless he gets moved, but he's not a guy that I feel like we can rely on late inning moments. It's just not. And Jose Ruiz, I don't mind. Jose Ruiz is a fifth, sixth inning guy. In a blowout game or in a game where you're winning or losing by a lot, he's going to be there to get an inning or two. And I thought he did a decent job. 3.71 ERA on the year, not terrible with the save. You know what we're getting with him, right? I know I said that a few times, but we know what we're getting with Jose Ruiz. Tanner Banks is just not good. Simple as that. So this is the team, right? This is what we have going into next year as it stands right now. And the positions I'm going to address are going to be third base, some bench outfielders, and relievers. And we're going to take a look at the free agency list and see what we need to do from here. My first player is Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman's a dude who I think can absolutely help this team and be a guy who really can lift them over the hump. I think this is a dude who's experienced. He's won World Series with the Astros, even against the Phillies. I think this is someone that the Phillies could definitely use. This is a gold glover. This is a silver slugger. This is a guy who has some pop in his bat. This is a guy who's not going to hit insanely high average, but he's going to do the job. And this is a team we saw struggle with chasing. This is a team we saw whiff. This is a team we saw strike out a decent bit. Alex Bregman's great at not doing any of those things, as we see on his Savant page. Now, how is this going to help us? We saw what happened to the Phillies. We saw what happened to the Phillies the last few years. They just go ice cold, and they abandon their approach and start chasing, and I think this is a guy who really can help them. He's done it on the big stage before. Here's him going deep off Wheeler in the World Series. This is one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in baseball. This is someone that the Phillies could definitely use and benefit from. And I think a lot of teams can. I think the team in this clip is going to be on Bregman, the Yankees. I think a few teams are definitely going to look at the services of Alex Bregman. Does he go back to Houston or does he leave? I think overall, if he needs to leave, I think the Phillies need to be the first one at his door, giving him a 5 to 6 year deal. Next up on my wish list is Jeff Hoffman, and I think we need to re-sign him. I believe there's value in Jeff Hoffman. I think he's disgusting, I think he's gross, and I think that he really can help this team. I think this is a guy who we saw had a great 2 years here, but the playoffs really might leave a sour taste in some people's mouth, which is understandable. But look at the Baseball Savant page. This guy is nasty. Slider 4-seam. You know what you're getting. He's nasty. Don't overthink it. Do not let recency bias take you over. He's the answer. Next move, I believe, is Tanner Scott. This is a back end of the bullpen arm that the Phillies need. Now, if Jeff Hoffman isn't where they go, and even if this is where they go, I believe Jeff Hoffman can be elite in the setup role, and Tanner Scott should be the guy that closes out. This is a guy who has experience closing. This is a guy who's been gross the last few years, and he dominates players with the fastball and slider combination. Very similar to Jeff Hoffman, except now you're getting it from the left side, and it's the best fastball in the league. A guy who doesn't let up hard contact. This is a guy we could have closeout games for us. The last group of guys I want to get into are bench guys that are going to be there for depth and platoon reasons. Now, I look at Randall Grichuk and Jesse Winker. I believe these are two guys that can provide some value off the bench for the Phillies. We saw Grichuk just have a great year offensively, and although he didn't have too many at-bats, just a little bit over 200, he provides value as a right-handed bat with some pop and all-right fielding. Jesse Winker is just the opposite, a left-handed bat who brings an attitude that I believe this team does need, brings a good at-bat, and just an absolute righty killer. We saw what this guy was doing in the playoffs, and especially when he got to the Mets. He was great for them and was a key part on what they did. I think these are two guys that could definitely help this team bench-wise. This is the time it finally happens. I think we will actually see Devin Williams traded after years of rumors and speculation that he's going to be traded, and I think we're finally going to see it. And look who's number one. The Philadelphia Phillies. He's been linked to them for a little bit, right? This isn't the first time us Phillies fans are familiar with Devin Williams rumors. Now is the time. It feels real. This is the moment we need to capitalize on. This is a World Series winning move, in my opinion. Devin Williams is simply elite. I'm going to play his percentile rankings through the years, and you're going to see a lot of red. This guy is that good. I mean, he is someone who really can change this team for the better. I think when we look at his airbender, his changeup, as credited by Pitching Ninja, it's the best pitch in the sport, one of the best pitches we'll ever see. It makes guys go crazy at the plate. It's something that doesn't make sense. This is the type of stuff we can expect from Devin Williams. I mean, he's one of the nastiest pitchers in the game with his airbender. Shout out to Pitching Ninja. If we can add this to the back end of the bullpen, I think we really can come over the edge. I think that, people may think about the home run he let up to Alonso, but that's not, I think it's going to be different. I think he's that good. And I just think Pete Alonso hit a really good pitch. So I think it's time to make the move for Devin Williams. Now that you've heard my thoughts, I want to know what you guys think. What do the Phillies do from here? Who do they trade for? Who do they sign? How do we get back to the top of the mountain that we haven't been at since 2008? I think there's a lot of avenues this team can go down, and I want you guys to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, go Phillies.